Hello, everyone. Welcome to the academics panel for the Princeton class of 2024. My name is Aaron. I am a sophomore studying molecular biology from Mequon, Wisconsin. I'm a sophomore studying molecular biology from Mequon, Wisconsin. I'm on campus. I'm involved in the William Drigo Singers through the Princeton Music Department. I'm a peer academic advisor in Forbes College, and I'm also involved in Jewish life.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashwin. I'm a sophomore from Marlton, New Jersey, majoring in the Woodrow Wilson School with certificates in South Asian Studies and vocal performance. On campus, I'm involved in the Princeton University Glee Club and Chamber Choir through the music department as well. And I'm also an RCA or residential college advisor for Rocky College.
Hi everyone, I'm Beatrix. I'm a sophomore, a member of the class of 2022 from Manhattan, New York City. I am a recently declared English major, earning certificates in French language and culture and in poetry, which is part of our creative writing department. And in addition to working as a campus visit ambassador with the admissions office, I'm a tour guide for Princeton. I tutor through the PACE Center, so I work with local middle school students every week, and I am a poetry editor for the Nassau Literary Review, which is one of the oldest lit mags on Princeton's campus.
Hi everyone. First of all, huge congrats. This is such an exciting time. My name's Christina and I'm a junior from Winchester, Massachusetts, so just outside Boston. I'm concentrating in operations research and financial engineering and getting certificates in linguistics and computer science. Apart from being a campus visit ambassador at Princeton, I'm also a tour guide. I'm on the club volleyball team. I'm a group fitness instructor and a peer tutor, and I was pretty heavily involved with our PACE Center, like Beatrice mentioned, so lots of different service groups and stuff like that.
Hi everyone, I'm Lehman. I'm a current sophomore at Princeton, concentrating in politics. I'm getting certificates in entrepreneurship and the history and art of diplomacy. I'm originally from Williamsburg, Virginia. On campus, I'm heavily engaged a lot with University Health Services, so I do a lot of peer health work. I do a lot of work with insurance programs in Trenton, New Jersey, and New York City. In addition, I am also an Orange Key tour guide. I work at the Office of Admission, and I do a lot of work with undergraduate student government.
Hi everyone, my name's Zoe. I am a current junior, class of 2021. I'm from Findlay, Ohio, and I'm majoring in anthropology. I also have a certificate in archaeology, and here on campus, I'm actually involved as a peer academic advisor, a peer career advisor, along with being a campus visit ambassador, a tour guide, and also a fellow member of the Questbridge cohort here on campus.
Great. So just a few quick things before we begin. Feel free to use the Q&A box to submit your questions, and they will be moderated by admission officers to make sure that we can answer all of your questions. So we've gotten to know all of our panelists. So we will begin with our first question. So the first question is, when do students declare the concentration? Lehman, could you speak to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually just recently declared my concentration. So I'm going to be concentrating in politics with an emphasis on economics. And I just declared that as of April 2nd. So for AB students, those individuals that are getting degrees, typically like Bachelor's of Arts, you'll be declaring in the month of April during your second year, during your sophomore year. Before that, you'll have some meetings potentially with department reps to kind of get an idea as to which department you feel most comfortable with, what you're interested in studying. After that, you'll declare, you'll have a meeting with the head of your department or some other administrator, and then you'll pick your classes for the following fall. For BSE students, you actually will declare during your first year. So you have a few open houses for the different engineering departments in the month of April. Then you'll meet with your intended department's kind of coordinator or director. And then after that, you will choose courses and then finally declare your intended engineering major in May of your first year.
So with a lot of questions about concentrations, a common question is whether or not students can double major. Beatrix, did you want to speak to double majoring at Princeton?
Yes, absolutely. I also just want to make one note that might be a little helpful going forward. At Princeton, we call majors concentrations and we call minors certificates. So that might just be helpful to keep in mind because it's probably something we'll be talking about a lot today. So no, Princeton doesn't offer double majors because, as Lehman just said, every student eventually does join one department. And that's where you'll really become an expert in your field. Within each department, there are tons of different options. And additionally, we have certificate programs, like I just said, that function as minors. But Princeton is really great because you do not have a limit on how many certificates you can achieve. So you can do something totally different from your major. You can do something very similar to your major, really whatever you want it to be. And it's a really popular thing that a lot of students do at Princeton.
So yeah, so a lot of our panelists have spoken about Bachelor of Science in Engineering or BSc majors and AB majors or Bachelor of Arts concentrations. So Christina is pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Engineering. Christina, could you talk about the leeway that students have between switching between the two?
Yeah, for sure. So as an engineer, I came in knowing that I was going to be an engineer, so I kind of had like that idea in my mind. But I remember like the very first day before even like starting classes, you go and sort of have either an AB like get together or a BSc get together. So either Bachelor of Science in Engineering or Bachelor of Arts, which is we call AB. And I remember I sat down and talked to the kid right next to me, and I was like, oh, like I think I'm gonna do Orphe, which is my concentration but shortened. And he was like, yeah, I applied as that, but like I'm switching to econ, and this was before classes had even started. So there's a lot of leeway switching in between, especially AB to BSc. And then even within BSc itself, I had a friend start off as computer science, like her first semester of freshman year, and then by her second semester, she decided that she was going to do electrical engineering, and then by her first semester sophomore year, she decided she was now in the neuro department. So she actually went ahead and declared as a BSc candidate, and then after doing all the requirements and kind of like pursuing her other interests, she realized that the neuro department aligned more with her interests, and it was basically just going to her advisor saying, this is kind of what I want to do. These are how my courses work out. I know like this is what my schedule is going to be like. I'm going to be in neuro. She redeclared her sophomore spring, and now she's happily in the neuro department. So it's very easy to switch back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, so another question is, Ashwin, I was wondering if you could speak about the humanities sequence.
Yeah, of course. So I didn't personally take the humanities sequence, but a lot of my friends did. And the humanities sequence is basically a 2-semester course sequence that goes through like the entire canon of Western literature within those 2 semesters. And it's co-taught by about 6 different professors in all different humanities departments. So it's really interdisciplinary, and every lecture is taught by a different professor. And precepts are also all run by a different professor every time. And just to go off that a little bit, a precept is something that we, at Princeton that is involved with each lecture, but is a smaller section that breaks down a larger lecture into a smaller classroom size of about 15 to 20 students. So in this class in the humanities sequence, the precepts are also all run by the professors and by a different professor each time. So you have a really in-depth discussion, and you get to know a lot of different professors in a lot of different fields and in different departments, and also to get to go through all of Western literature at the same time.
So yeah, so there's another question about resources for students that want to enter medical school after Princeton. So I don't think I mentioned this, but I'm also a pre-medical student. So I am on a pre-med track right now. And a really great resource that Princeton has is the Health Profession Advising Office. From your very first week on campus, you can meet with an advisor and plan your 4 years at Princeton of all the courses that you need to take in order to fulfill the medical school entrance requirements. In addition to just making sure that you're taking all the proper courses, they also advise you on extracurriculars, on possible volunteering or summer opportunities that could be available to you, and they really help you craft your medical school applications when you're applying. In addition to that, they also have peer advisors, so you can speak to other students who are upperclassmen who have taken some pre-med courses and who have experience in those courses. So another question that we're going to have Christina answer is whether or not it's possible to pursue more than 2 certificates as an engineering concentrator and what that's like.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in my bio, I am pursuing 2 certificates, so not necessarily more than 2. But it is possible to get more than 2 certificates in as an engineer. I know, so besides just being Orphe, a bunch of my friends are mechanical and aerospace engineers, so MAE. Everything has like a 3-letter abbreviation at Princeton. It's really convenient. So sorry if I somehow slip into that. But especially with MIE, there's a bunch of popular certificates that go along with it. So robotics, the applications of computing or computer science, and a variety of different ones. And I've even talked to one of my friends who is chemical and biological engineering, who is CBE. She's getting a computer science certificate and some other one as well. But she's basically said she has the like cognitive science certificate just by the courses that she took. The only reason she isn't actively pursuing it is because basically all of your certificates have to somehow be incorporated into your senior thesis or somehow like involved in independent work. So that would require like part of your final thesis or independent work your senior year, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, basically has to be revolving or influenced by your certificates. So really that might be any type of limitation to what type of certificates that you want to get. But as far as it goes for me, especially, I felt that ORF and computer science or COS go very hand in hand. And a bunch of my electives for my concentration have actually been fulfilled by taking computer science classes. And then linguistics is just an area that I can apply both of these things to. So yeah, super possible to do more than 2 certificates. That being said, I would say on average, like people stick around 1 or 2. I even know people getting no certificates. There's no pressure to get a certificate at all. But then there are some people who decide to get a bunch because they're interested in so many things, which is, again, just another cool part about Princeton.
So yeah, so Zoe, you haven't spoken yet. Could you speak about coming into Princeton with an open mind on what you wanted to study and how you might go about choosing eventually what you wanted to concentrate in?
Yeah, so actually I came into Princeton with a really focused mind in chemistry, but everything kind of changed immediately when I stepped on campus. I had my first class in chemistry, and then I immediately walked out of that class, dropped the class, and I was like, okay, now what do I do with my life? So I reached out to a lot of different opportunities and resources here on campus that had to do with my residential college. But that's the beauty of Princeton, is that I had all of these options to go and look at all these different majors. So I tried psychology, didn't love it, tried, history once. And then eventually I took an anthro class just to say, hey, why not try it? And I fell in love with it. I was really passionate about it. I was really motivated, and I really had fun doing what the class entailed, the readings, the papers, really engaging in class discussions. So the way that I narrowed it down was just by being able to feel, at home in the major or at home in the class, and being able to really feel like I can contribute and that I was really passionate about that class.
Yeah, so another question is there a maximum number of courses that a student can take? And how many minors or certificates can a student get? Lehman, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think with regards to certificates especially, I've heard anything ranging from 0. I'm actually not. I have a lot of friends that aren't doing any certificates, and then I have friends of mine that graduated with 6 certificates. So really that can just range exponentially. Moving back to the other part of the question though, could you perhaps clarify a little bit what you mean with that first half, Erin?
Yeah, so is there a maximum number of individual courses that a student is allowed to take or is suggested to take?
So most students at Princeton tend to take 4 to 5 classes per semester. So if you're an engineer, you're actually going to need to have 36 courses in order to graduate from Princeton. I see Christina over there smiling because she's an engineer. So you would typically do 4 semesters in the fall, maybe 5 in the spring, maybe 5 in the fall, 4 in the spring for the next year. However, for AB students, you simply have to complete 31 courses, along with 4 credits worth of independent work. One thing to note though about the AB program is that you're going to need to complete 17 courses by the end of your sophomore year. So you're going to have to do at least 1 5-course semester before you are able to really move into junior year as an AB student. In terms of how many classes is really the max, You can go up to 6 without requiring a director of studies. That's kind of like within your own residential college, someone to really help you guide you along the path of just academics at Princeton. So you'll need, if you go over 6, kind of a letter from them saying that, hey, it's okay, I recognize that this person's capable of handling 7 courses at Princeton. But otherwise, typically students pretty much max out at 6. And then when you get to the upperclassmen years, junior and senior year, a lot of people will choose to take reduced course loads. So a lot of seniors will maybe do 3 courses in their fall and spring semester. Perhaps a junior may say, hey, this is going to be really intense. Junior spring, maybe I want to do 3 classes, or maybe I want to do 4 classes and then maybe bulk up on that prior fall. So it really can range depending on the person, depending on what you're really comfortable with.
So yeah, so another question is if Christina could answer what like some freshman engineering prerequisites were like calculus 1, calculus 2, chemistry, physics.
Yeah, so basically coming in as an engineer, there are some basic requirements that you need in order to fulfill your BSc education. So basically we have to take like Calc 1, Calc 2, multivariable calculus, linear algebra, and then physics, electricity, magnetism, and mechanics, at least 1 semester of chemistry. If you want to be a chemical and biological engineer, you're going to need to take 2. And then you also need at least one semester of computer science. So basically, they are actually like a really nice part of your first year. At least that's what I found. So it's like the entire community of like your first year engineers are going to be there learning about math, physics, and all of that. So they have a lot of resources and a lot of support, and you honestly get to know a lot of the engineers in your class even better. So sorry, yeah.
So yeah, so another question that was submitted, someone asked that I know that Princeton encourages its students to pursue their intellectual interests in a variety of different disciplines. Can one of the panelists speak about a time they took a course outside of their concentration that changed the way they see their worldview? If anyone just wants to chime in on that one.
I can say a little something. So I took what's called a freshman seminar my freshman year. So freshman seminars are these really cool programs that allow freshmen and first years to be in a seminar class of only 12 to 15 students with a faculty member who's an expert in their field and to take a really deep dive into that specific subject. So during my first year, I took a freshman seminar called Modernity in Myth, in which we analyzed modern interpretations of classic Greco-Roman myths. And that class, that was something I really hadn't engaged with much. I knew a little bit about myth from high school, but it wasn't something that I had like a deep interest in before coming to Princeton. But in this class, after doing these interpretations and reading all of these myths and their modern interpretations, I realized that the classics were something that actually really interested me. And along with this class as well, I got to travel to Greece over my fall break, my first semester. So this was truly a life-changing class for me. And so much so that I continue to take classes in the Hellenic Studies department and the classics department after that. And even though I might not be getting a certificate or majoring in that, it's still something that has been a big part of my Princeton career and an interest that I'll hold with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about different courses that people have taken, and something that's really, really tied closely with courses are distribution requirements. So Beatrix, I was wondering if you could explain what distribution requirements were.
Absolutely. So like Erin said, we have been touching on a lot of different interests, and I can't think of a single person I know at Princeton who hasn't discovered something new during their time as an undergrad. And a big reason why that's true is due to the distribution requirement system. So Princeton does not have a core curriculum, meaning there's not a prescribed set of classes that every undergrad needs to take, with the exception of one writing seminar that every freshman does take at some point. Maybe we'll come back to that a bit later. But the distribution requirements really serve the purpose of requiring breadth in studies, meaning you try a lot of different things, as well as depth. Because the Princeton experience definitely will make you an expert in your major and on the subjects of your independent work. So the distribution requirements are very broad. There are many different classes you can take to fulfill any specific one. To give you an idea of what these requirements are like, I'll just name a few. So there's language and the arts, quantitative reasoning, social analysis, epistemology and cognition. There are a bunch. But for each one, the really great thing is that so many different courses fulfill it. So you will never be pushed into taking a class that you are not genuinely excited for. And like I said at the beginning, this does become a great way to find new interests. For me, I took an intro psychology class to fulfill a science and technology requirement and ended up taking 3 more psych courses over the past 2 years. So they really can lead you to things that you wouldn't expect otherwise.
So yeah, Christina, could you just talk about how engineers go about fulfilling their distribution requirements and how flexible their schedules are to allow them to take courses that they're genuinely interested in that may not be related to their major?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So going off of what Beatrix said, distribution requirements are truly such a great way to broaden your horizons and learn a little bit more about the different things Princeton has to offer. But a little bit of a distinction between the two is that, as I'm sure you guys might have researched online, or especially between the differences between pursuing an AB degree versus a BSc degree, AB students are actually required to take at least 1 class in all the different distribution areas, whereas as a BSc student, you actually only have to take 7 distribution requirements among 4 different areas. So it's a little different because we do have different requirements to be an engineer, because we have to take those physics classes, chemistry, whatnot. You can also test out of those, but basically those courses are required to be an engineer. So in order to pursue whatever you want in the distribution requirements, that's sort of a given, and that doesn't change whether you're an AB student or a BSc student. I know Ashwin said that he was very interested in taking these classes, especially, and getting to go to Greece, but not actually getting a certificate in it. And I've had the same experience with linguistics, but actually now am getting a certificate in it. So taking that intro linguistics class was totally new for me. It was just fulfilling a distribution requirement that I needed, and then it snuck right in there. And now I'm getting a certificate in that. And it's actually impacting a lot of the work that I'm doing as far as independent work goes and my senior thesis. So really, they're just a great way to learn about different applications of engineering and how you can combine the two. So it's pretty these classes are built in so that you go outside of engineering in a way, and then you can always bring back what you love to it.
So yeah, thanks, Christina. So I got a question about what the best class you've ever taken at Princeton was on the topic of courses. So I guess for me, one of the best courses that I've taken, I'm actually taking it right now, and I really, really love it. It's a course in the Slavic department called Roma in Eastern Europe, The Dynamics of Culture. And essentially what it is, it's a 10-person seminar. So it's 10 students with a professor. And we read about and watch movies about Roma in Eastern Europe. And we learn about, the way that they're perceived by other communities and how they fit into general European society. It's a subject that I've never studied before in my entire life, and probably without the specific course, I never would ever again. But I always really look forward to the discussions. I really enjoyed the readings, and I really, really get a lot out of the course. Is there anyone else that wanted to share really quickly what their favorite course has been so far?
I can go, or Beatrix, go. We can both go. Okay, wait. I just wanted to impart that while I've had phenomenal courses, I say this it's kind of a funny answer, but basically my favorite class that I've taken has been my intro to multivariable calculus class, which I took my first semester at Princeton. And you would think, why would that ever be someone's favorite class unless you're very interested in mathematics, it's a phenomenal class. But really the reason was my professor. She was one of the greatest professors I've had. I just there's a little anecdote that I always like to tell with this story, with the fact that I couldn't make her office hours, which every professor is required to have. So I asked her to do it at 7:30 in the morning because it was the only time that worked with my schedule. For some reason, I forget why. And she said yes. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to get out, because she needs her own time, her own space. She probably thinks I'm crazy and doesn't like me. But I went in and I started rapid fire asking her questions, trying to get out of her hair. And she's like, hold up, like, who are you? Where are you from? Like, let's get to know each other. And so we had a wonderful interaction. It turns out she actually lived a town over from me for part of my life. I went to the same summer camp as her daughter. We're still in contact today. Like one of the best interactions that I've gotten from a professor, and also just like in her class, it was just always such a joy to walk in and like go to her class and like see her teaching. And that was my very first semester in a large intro class. It was just awesome.
So yeah, so another question that I got was, how difficult is it to earn a STEM degree while learning an additional language? So as I mentioned, I'm a molecular biology concentrator, and I'm also pursuing a certificate in French language and culture. So it's actually it's not too difficult. What's really, really nice is that only about a third of the total courses that you take at Princeton are actually devoted to your major. So you have about 2/3 of your other courses that are either devoted to distribution requirements or your certificates that you can take to explore other interests. So one of your certificates could possibly be a language where you're learning the language. So it's very manageable to do that with a balanced course load. It does take some planning, and there are tons of resources at Princeton for you to be able to do that. And it definitely is possible for almost any major to be majoring in a STEM field and also be learning a language as well. So then moving on to some more specific questions. Lehman, I was wondering if you could talk about like what the difference is between freshman and senior years, and then I'm sorry, freshman and sophomore years, and then junior and senior year, especially when it comes to independent work and everything that entails.
Yeah, so I guess I can start off with the one that I've actually participated in, which is moving from my freshman year to my sophomore year. I would say, especially transitioning into a university like Princeton, it's extremely difficult. I kind of come from like a rural area of Virginia. I went to like a public high school. So I guess my academic preparation may not have been as strong as other individuals. So coming in, I definitely had to lean on different support systems that the university had in place for me. So I was always reaching out to my RCA, my residential college advisor. I was always definitely talking to my PAAs, my peer academic advisors, my director of studies, had multiple conversations with my director of student life, my DSL, and they really helped me transition and make Princeton a home. And kind of transitioning into sophomore year, I've had the opportunity now that I know how to Princeton, I guess. I know how to manage my time better. I know how to make sure I'm not overloading myself with too many extracurriculars or too many classes or too many commitments. And this has given me such an opportunity to really invest myself in what Princeton has to offer. So I go to a bunch of the speaking talks. I go to a bunch of the lectures. I'll take advantage of my residential college trip to go watch The Lion King in New York City on a Saturday, because I've learned how to make time for that. And that's just one really, really big transition that's really worked from freshman to sophomore year. Talking a little bit about the difference between junior and senior year, I guess the big difference would be independent work. So for AB students, you're going to complete 1 to 2 junior papers. These can run from 20 to about 30 pages. This is usually your own independent work. You'll do some research throughout the year, and it'll culminate in these different research projects. You will have a faculty advisor. This person's meant to kind of help you, guide you along the process. BSc students can choose to participate in an independent project, although it's not required. And then moving to senior year, everyone has to do their senior theses. These are a bit longer, typically 80 to 120 pages, depending on the department. And then within senior year, again, you'll have your faculty advisor. I haven't experienced the transition from junior to senior year yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. If anyone else, perhaps Christina or another, maybe Zoe, that's actually like in that class year, wants to talk a little bit about maybe the transition from sophomore to junior year, I'm sure that'd be helpful as well.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the transition from sophomore year to junior year. It gets a little bit different because you're actually becoming part of a department now. So you get to know your department a little bit more in depth, and you start taking some of the courses that go towards your major. And like Lehman was saying, next up is your junior independent work, which I'm currently doing right now. And they really set you up to complete that throughout the year. You're doing your own independent research, you're gathering sources, and you'll culminate a 20 to 30 page paper that, depending on your major, could go into your senior thesis, or you can do, a different topic on your senior thesis as you move in. A lot of people do summer research in towards their senior thesis to kind of get that rolling, and work on that throughout your senior year. But outside of that, I've just been doing my own research outside of classes to culminate the junior paper that I'm currently working on. Christina, if you have anything else to add, feel free.
Yeah, just to chime in for all my engineers, I would say our largest transition might even just be going from your first year to your second year, because you've joined your department, you might start taking those classes already. So I started taking my core requirements for OR in the sophomore fall. Some people even choose to do it their first year spring. So that's kind of a change, but also you've been surrounded by engineers kind of for the majority of those classes. So it's exciting. Now you have a home base, which is nice. But then just another thing to add, maybe it's a perk of engineering, maybe not, but we actually don't have any junior papers. That's only a requirement for AB students. You can choose to do junior independent work if you choose to. I chose to do that. I'm currently completing my independent work this semester, which has been a really fun and rewarding experience, and it's been totally outside of my concentration. So I'm doing it in the linguistics department. But that being said, I would say, at least I know for my year, for this spring semester, only 4 people chose to do that, and my department's around 40 people. So not necessarily the norm, but also totally a possibility. And then senior year, we'll all come back together for that thesis.
So yeah, so on the topic of thesis and JP, either Christina or Zoe, could you speak about how you would come up with a thesis idea? If you've never done research before, it sounds intimidating. Lehman was saying sometimes theses run up to 150 pages. So what's that process like, and what resources are there to help you?
Yeah, I can speak kind of briefly into that. So with me just finishing my independent work as a junior, my junior paper this year, I'm going to start thinking about that senior thesis. And as of yet, I don't really know what that entails. But my junior paper deals with a specific topic that a couple of the professors in the anthropology department are really working towards in their own career. So my plan is to really reach out to those faculty members and figure out what research they're doing, if there's any way that I can, jump onto that and kind of get a firsthand experience on the research that they're doing, so that it can contribute to my own senior thesis. But outside of that, it's really just brainstorming what I'm interested in and whether I'd like to continue the work that I'm doing in my junior paper now. But my whole point is to emphasize the faculty-student relationship, where they're so open and willing to let you know what research they're working on. They're there for you, and they sit in their office in their office hours and wait for you to come and talk to them about their research, about who you are as a person, what you're interested in, and how they can help.
Yeah, just to go off of what Zoe said, that is 100% true. Now, due to the situation online learning, I jumped into one of my professor's office hours at 8 in the morning, where it was really just to ask him about thesis questions, and basically how does that work? It does sound a little scary. I will say that going through the progression of Princeton, it really prepares you for it all the way, starting with your writing seminar, learning how to use the library, learning how to enter the scholarly discussion, and all of those fun words that we learned. And then again, going to your junior year after you've decided on your concentration, it really hones in on looking at what interests you. And like Zoe was saying, those faculty members are so there for you. Because I went in the fall to do because I was thinking about doing independent work. I just emailed a bunch of linguistics professors, sat down with one and said, I'm kind of interested in doing research, haven't done linguistics research before. Is there any way you could talk to me a little about it? Could I help you with yours? And he's like, oh yeah, I kind of need a research assistant. Do you just want to do it? I said, okay, yeah, that'd be great. So I just got sort of this research assistant position, learned a lot about linguistics research. We talked a lot about what I could do as independent work, and that just kind of blossomed from there. And then now, as far as coming with a thesis goes, again, reaching out to the professors that you're interested in, that the work is what you're interested in and just saying, this is what I'm kind of interested in. And they're there for you. I had, again, a thesis meeting yesterday with a professor over Skype, just asking about what are like theses that involve like linguistics and ORF and computer science and all that. And she's like, oh, well, like think about this, find the data, find your question, and then like, let's just keep talking. So it's super, super helpful.
So yeah, so a question came in about the class selection process and shopping period. So Beatrix, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So when you are a new freshman, throughout your freshman and sophomore year, actually, you will be matched with a residential college faculty advisor. So that's somebody that is part of your res college, one of the 6, who probably has some kind of connection to any of your areas of interest of study, although it's not very specific yet, because as we've talked about, people switch their majors and intended majors all the time, especially during the first 2 years. So when you declare as a sophomore into your junior year, you'll be matched with a specific departmental advisor. And in terms of course selection and class shopping, this person is here for you for those first 2 years to help you decide which classes to take. So don't worry, class of 24, this is not something you need to figure out alone over summer. You have a whole team of people that will be there to help discuss what you want during that very first semester and going forward. And for the shopping period that we mentioned, that is just a few weeks at the start of every semester where you can sign up for a bunch of classes and go to them to see if they excite you, if they were what you hoped they would be from reading the descriptions. So it's a way for you to shop those classes and test them out before you commit to them. And during that period, there's no penalty for dropping a course or switching enrollment.
Yeah, so before we move on, I just wanted to clarify a little bit about what a residential college is. So I like to think of Princeton's residential system as kind of being like Harry Potter, like a Hogwarts house system. So all students are randomly assorted into a residential college. There are 6 prior to matriculating before their freshman year. So every residential college is an assortment of dorms, a dining hall, and all sorts of different resources. So students live within this residential college in one of the dorms within them for their first 2 years on campus. And then also as part of these residential colleges come a lot of resources. As I said earlier, I'm a residential college advisor, which is like an RA at a lot of other schools, but also has an additional mentorship component in the role. And associated with every residential college advisor is a peer academic advisor, or a PAA. So a PAA is there to help make sure that students in the residential college system are academically supported, not only from the faculty level, but also from older students. For example, my PAA, my freshman year, there was someone who was living with me that was so scared to get their own books that our PAA actually went with her to the bookstore. So those are really good resources as well. Also associated with every residential college are faculty-related resources. So every residential college has a director of studies who can be your liaison between you and any faculty members. So say you're having an issue academically, you need a tutor, you need an exam moved, you can just contact your director of studies. Similarly, there's also a director of student life who kind of mediates all like the day-to-day issues within the residential college, such as roommate disputes, etc. So your residential college is kind of like a microcosm of your Princeton experience, and it's where a lot of your resources are and where you kind of spend a lot of your time during your first 2 years.
Thanks, Ashwin. So another question that came in for Ashwin was, I was wondering if you could describe what the Woodrow Wilson School major entails and what are the required courses?
Yeah, of course. So the Woodrow Wilson School is the School of Public and International Affairs, and so it kind of has 2 prongs. Before declaring your concentration in the Woodrow Wilson School at the end of your sophomore year, you're required to take 4 courses, 1 in econ, 1 in statistics, 1 in either politics, sociology, or psychology, and 1 in history. So the breadth of those courses also kind of mimics the breadth of the major itself. And so once you declare the Woodrow Wilson School at the end of your sophomore year, you have the option to choose a policy track within the school. So I recently declared, actually just a few days ago, and I chose conflict and cooperation as my policy track, but there are many others. There's like race and discrimination, human rights and immigration, health and health policy, all sorts of things. So basically, once you declare that, you start taking courses more related to your policy area of concentration, in addition to a few other mandatory courses. For example, since it's the School of International Relations, there is a politics requirement to take some sort of course about international relations or like politics of development. And in addition, you keep that economics requirement in there. So you take an upper level econ course, you take a course in science policy, and you take a course in psychology and public policy, etc. So you're not only learning about the international issues that could aid you if you're really interested in international relations, but you're also learning learning about the technical side of policy making. Another really cool thing about the Woodrow Wilson School is that in your junior year for your JP, you do what's called a policy task force. And in this task force, you work with a group of students and you're actually given a real policy problem that together you devise a solution to, and then you go present it. So I had a friend who worked in a policy task force about education policy and actually went and presented it to the Department of Education. So there are really cool opportunities to learn about technical policy making and also international relations through a variety of courses in the Woodrow Wilson School.
Thanks, Ashwin. So then there was a question about the integrated science curriculum. So essentially what the integrated science curriculum is it is a freshman year course. You take 2 courses your freshman fall and 2 courses your freshman spring. And it's an integrated, it's a course where you are learning about molecular biology, about computer science, about physics, and about chemistry. So it's all 4 of those subject areas all put into one course. And it's taught by professors from all of those departments, and it's a very tight-knit community. There's only about 15 to 20 people in the class. So you get really, really close with your professors, you get really close with the people, working on problem sets. And it's a way for those who are really, really interested in the sciences or engineering to get a jump start on those studies because they do fulfill a lot of the prerequisites for declaring majors. So by taking the integrated science curriculum, you're actually able to start to take upper level courses before the rest of your peers would, had they not chosen to do that. And then another question about computer sciences. Christina, could you talk about the difference between getting your computer science degree as a Bachelor of Arts and then also as a Bachelor of Science and Engineering?
Yes. So basically, COS or computer science is the only concentration that you can get either as an AB degree or as a BSc degree. The underlying principles are still the same. You're still going to have to take those core classes like the intro one, like operating systems, computer systems, data structures, and algorithms. But so basically the distinction between the two is that if you choose to do a BSc degree, you're going to have to go through the engineering requirements and you're going to have to take those math, chemistry, physics classes. Whereas if you choose to do AB, you are not required to do that. You're still going to have to take some math courses just because of the way that computer science is structured, and it leans into a bunch of the prerequisites for upper level classes. But you don't have to take the physics labs, you don't have to do chemistry. Instead, you have to take those, like the larger number of distribution requirements instead. As of now, yeah, and then both will be required to write a thesis. By the time that you guys are in that time period, you guys will all have to write computer theses. And you do sort of independent work. If you're like a AB co-student, you do your own independent work as well. Whereas if you're BSc for your junior year, you're not required to do that. So there's sort of different applications to them. I have a bunch of friends in both departments because of the amount of computer science classes I've taken. I know people in like both areas. And so COS BSc seems to be more like they knew they wanted to do engineering. They kind of have like maybe more of like a niche mindset going into it. Whereas if you're AB, they allow you more to sort of explore like different areas and try even broader things. Not that BSc doesn't do that either, but I felt that going in, they had more of a clear picture in mind, or sometimes they came in with like AP or IB credit that kind of like passed them out of a lot of the requirements. So they said, oh, why not do it? So it kind of really depends on what you're interested in.
So yeah, so on the topic of majors, I was wondering if Lehman, if you could talk about what it means to be an econ major.
Yeah, so econ is actually one of the largest concentrations on campus. I think the only one ahead of that would be computer science when you combine the AB and the BSE. So our econ department is absolutely fantastic. The student to faculty ratio is actually lower than Princeton's. It's 2 to 1. There's over 60 different faculty members within the econ department. There's a lot of famous ones like Angus Deaton, who won a Nobel Prize, or Alan Blinder, who was the vice chairman, I think, of the Federal Reserve under Clinton. But econ at Princeton is really well done. If you're thinking about like concentrating in it, a lot of your prereqs are going to be foundational courses. So macro, micro, potentially some calculus, depending on which econ you're interested in doing. There's a general track and then a math specialized track. Everyone takes the same courses. It's just that the math track econ individuals will take the mathematics versions. A lot of the econ kids, as you guys are probably aware, are really interested in going either into PhD programs or to business school. They're interested in finance. So although Princeton does not have a finance degree, we do have a finance certificate. So a lot of econ individuals will do a econ concentration with a finance certificate if they're interested in jobs in banking or in sales and trading. The econ, I'm in politics, but I do have an emphasis in economics. So half of my courses will be in econ, and then half of them will be in politics. So you can kind of mesh econ into any degree requirement or degree that you want. I have a friend that's doing psychology, and they're doing their focus on behavioral economics and psychology. So they were able to do kind of an independent concentration. But econ at Princeton is pretty flexible. Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about specific majors and different courses. So Beatrix, could you tell us what your typical day would look like? How many classes you have per day? How many hours a day you're in class? And then how much, or not how much, but what you're doing when you're not in class?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to preface this, my schedule is probably a lot more common to humanities majors. I'm an English major, in case anybody missed that, said that at the very beginning. So I take a lot of seminars. A seminar is a very small class. At Princeton, they're usually capped at about 15 students. So this semester, for example, 4 out of 5 of my classes are seminars. So I spend a lot of time in small groups discussing things, and a lot of those seminars meet for 3 hours straight once a week. So my schedule this semester is a little bit strange just because of that and my choice to take so many seminars. So I have a few morning lectures. That's Monday and Wednesday for me. Those are each 50 minutes long, and Ashwin explained a little while ago the preceptorial program. So just for reference, every lecture class does have a precept. That's a smaller group in which you discuss your ideas. So I will take you through my Wednesday, which will be tomorrow. So I have a history lecture at 10 a.m. in the morning, and then I have an 1.5-hour long French class. That is a very small group. It's a seminar, but this one meets twice a week for an hour and 20 minutes each time. Then I have a 3-hour long Milton class in the afternoon. That is actually my favorite course this semester. I really love it. And then a nighttime history precept. So that's only 50 minutes, 50, and it's with a really small group from my history lecture. That's what a typical day for me is like. On the other hand, because I just explained that, I don't have any class at all on Tuesdays. So I spend a lot of my time giving tours. I work with the admissions office, things like this. I hang out with my friends extra on Tuesdays. I get a little bit more sleep. I have longer meals, pretty much whatever you want. But that's something really cool that's different for me from high school to college, is that not all your classes meet every day. I think in most high schools, your classes meet 4 or 5 times a week, and you have a little bit more say in structuring how your days work.
Yeah, so another question was, how competitive does Princeton feel like you're competing with other students for grades, for research, for opportunities? Either Zoe or Christina, could one of you talk about that?
I'm happy to talk about it. And then Zoe, you want to jump in now? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so I know that as an engineer, or just in general, going to college can seem kind of daunting, and worrying about competitiveness between your classmates, doing other things. I stand by this when I say it has been, or Princeton Engineering has been one of the most collaborative environments I've ever been in. And that's just because Princeton by nature is a challenging school. It's exciting. It challenges you in so many ways. There's so many resources for you to go and get help, talk to your professors, talk to like TAs or like assistants, I don't know, your preceptor, anyone. And there's so many office hours, so many resources. So you can go to not only them for help, but also all of your peers who are in those classes, like especially with engineering. We have so many study groups. That first day of class that I had in that multivariable like calculus class that I say is my favorite, and that like one of my friends who I said was alien switched her major. It's how I met her. We went to class first day, first class ever at Princeton, and like the lecture happened, and we just turned to each other at the end of class. We're like, oh, like want to form a study group? And from then on, like that's how I met her. She's one of my best friends still, and that's just because we worked on PSETs together. And like studied together, and even from that experience it has been so comforting. And then especially in all of your other classes, I have found a PSET group in every single one of them, and people are always happy to help out because honestly the more that you teach someone else, the more you learn. So for me it's been a very collaborative, not at all competitive environment.
Yeah, I don't have really much to add from what Christina said. I'm just going to echo it and say that I also believe it's collaborative. Like we've all finally made it to Princeton. Like there's nothing more to really compete for. We all realize that Princeton is a challenging place and it can be stressful at times, but it can be really great at others. And we'll all have each other's backs because we're doing the thing. That's what I like to say, is that we're doing the thing. So for me, it's been really collaborative. And while there might be, you know, competitive internships or things like that, that doesn't mean there isn't one out there for you. There are so many resources and opportunities, like Christina was saying, for students to embark upon. Personally, I work, you know, with faculty, and I reach out to faculty as well and just be like, hi, like, do you have any opportunities for me, anything at all? And I actually have a really good relationship with one of my professors who is in the art and archaeology department, and we've gone really close, and he actually invited me back to Greece, where I studied abroad last year and was able to take a class while also participate in an archaeological dig. And I really loved what I was doing. It was absolutely mind-blowing how much I fell in love with what I was doing that he invited me back this summer. Unfortunately, it's been canceled, but I would have had the opportunity to do a lot of research on my own that would have gone towards my independent work for my archaeology certificate, but also towards, you know, research that I'm doing for anthropology as well. So there's a lot of different things that you can do as a Princeton student, and there's a lot of different opportunities, but we're all collaborative, we're all cheering for one another at the end of the day.
Yeah, so another question that came in is, can you discuss the foreign language courses and how rigorous they are, as well as whether or not learning a completely new language at Princeton is a good idea? So I am getting a certificate in French language and culture, and I started off with French 101, and I'm on my final 200 level course, which is, I would say, as many Princeton students would say, it's a really, really quick jump from 100 to 200 level courses. That being said, it's very, very doable. The introductory foreign language sequence is rigorous, but it's very, very good at helping you gain proficiency in a language if you wanted to study it further. There are also lots of opportunities to go abroad over the summer and take courses with language departments as well for credit. And those also help you a lot with you know, learning the language because it's a really immersive environment. Another thing that's super helpful for learning languages that aren't necessarily courses are also international internships. And I know that Ashwin did one, so maybe he could speak a little bit about that one.
Yeah, of course. Before I speak about that, I just wanted to say a little bit more about the language requirement. So many of you know, languages are students are required to demonstrate proficiency in a language prior to graduation for all students in the AB degree program. As Christina would say, this is not a requirement for those in the BSc program. But this can be fulfilled in a variety of ways. You can fulfill it by either having a native language from home and demonstrating proficiency that way. You can take a placement test on campus through your AP test scores, SAT scores, ACT subject test scores, or IB scores. So there's a lot of ways to test out of the language requirement if you already have prior language knowledge. But even in addition to that, if you per se, like say, test out of the language requirement, but still want to take another language, that's also an option. I tested out the language requirement from Spanish from high school, but I decided that I wanted to take a language at Princeton anyway, because there are over 25 different different languages offered. And so I decided to take Hindi, which is a language my family speaks, but I never learned. And now I'm at the end of the language sequence, and I just had a full conversation with my mom in Hindi. So Princeton really does have really good language departments. So even if you don't need to fulfill the requirement, I'd recommend that you take a language course anyway. So now pivoting to the International Internship Program. So the International Internship Program is through Princeton's Office of International Programs, and it offers Princeton students the opportunities to live and work abroad at an organization that has a partnership with Princeton. So all of the organizations that have placements through the International Internship Program are ones that have specific spots set aside for Princeton students, and then Princeton is simply just deciding who they're going to send there. So this is a really amazing opportunity because it's fully funded, and so you get an opportunity to experience working abroad and living abroad all on Princeton's dime prior to even graduating. So that is a really cool experience. I personally did one in Cambodia last summer, where I worked at an NGO focused on poverty relief and equitable educational access for students living in the slums of Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh. So there are all sorts of internships like that, also ones in government, in tech, public policy, etc. So there are a lot of cool opportunities through the International Internship Program.
So yeah, so in addition to international internships and study abroad for languages over the summer, there's also study abroad during the semester. So if you work with your departments, you can carefully plan a semester abroad, and there are lots of advisors that help you with that. You can start planning as early as your freshman fall to go abroad, and typically there have been students from every single department that have gone abroad. So definitely there should not be an issue in terms of majoring in a certain major and going abroad and trying to fulfill requirements, because the departments will work with you to allow you to go abroad, but also complete all your required courses on campus. And then one last thing about study abroad is the Novogratz Bridge Year program. Christina, did you want to speak about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit about it. I have a bunch of really close friends who did Bridge Year and say it is the best thing they ever did. So if you're looking to take a gap year or just want to go travel abroad and have some service opportunities, Bridge Year or the Novogratz Bridge Year program is definitely something you should look into. I think applications come out after you guys have decided to come to Princeton. So then you can apply after that, and then they'll get back to you later. I personally didn't apply to it, but like I said, I have a bunch of really good friends who did. So there's, I think like 5 different countries as of right now, where people can go and spend basically a year abroad. And so my closest friends went to Bolivia and China, as well as India and Senegal. And I know I'm missing one, but definitely check that out if you're interested in it. And then there's 7 students that are basically on that trip with you, and it's a really nice community that you have when you get back to campus. And it really, if you're interested in a Bridge Year or interested in taking a gap year, definitely check it out.
So yeah, so just one last question before we conclude the panel would be, could someone speak about the undergraduate focus at Princeton and what specifically that entails and how it's different than other universities, and how and why you personally really, really like that?
I can start off. I'll be pretty fast so that people can weigh in. I know we're getting a little short on time, but a lot of us have spoken today about how faculty have really impacted us here. And I think one of the most common answers you might get from a tour guide about what the undergraduate focus really translate into is how invested Princeton is in you. You are not just a number here, you are a person. We are small enough that the professors really have time for you, and you get resources in every way that resources can be interpreted. That applies to funding, that applies to research, and most of all, that applies to class and learning. So for me, I'm just gonna really quickly tell you about one class I took that really exemplifies what this means to me. And that was a translations course in the creative writing department with award-winning, brilliant professor Paul Muldoon. I've been a fan of his for years, and then I just got to take a class for him. And as wonderful a poet he is, he's an even better teacher. And my class had 6 students, and we met in his office, and I got to hang out with him for hours every week. He took us out to dinner twice to celebrate midterms and finals. And to me, that just says, like, these are some of the most brilliant people on earth, and they are here excited to work with you. And that's really what's made my Princeton experience so wonderful so far. Definitely sets it apart.
I think another thing that really sets Princeton apart, besides just our undergraduate focus, which I know was sort of the base of this question, but going a little off of it, as to just like what makes Princeton super special, is our alumni. I don't know like how much you guys have ever heard about Princeton reunions or even know an alum, but it is a crazy community out there. And what Princeton really does well when you come to campus is form these little communities, starting with your Z group, or sorry, with your residential college, and your Z group is something you get in one of those, and then moving on upwards to your concentration, to like different clubs you join, and then to your class year, and then moving past Princeton, which is closer for me than I'd like it to be. But basically, alum are always there for you and always excited to come back. Princeton reunions are probably the biggest thing ever that I've ever experienced, especially just like the amount of people that come back. It's not every 5 years. It's not on your 25th reunion. It is every single year. Unfortunately, they are canceled this year, but the amount of time and like the decision that it took to do that was definitely very, very large and for the best, but still like it's not something taken lightly. And it's just such an incredible community to be a part of. And then especially when you're interested in going further, looking at what people have done as far as reaching out for internships have gone, basically
Okay, so it looks like we have time for a few more questions. So if anyone could send in questions, we don't have any waiting in line to be answered. Yeah, in the meantime, until we get Christina, are you back?
sorry, did it freeze?
Yeah, you're frozen.
Oops, wait, oh gosh, okay. What was the last thing I said?
Basically something.
Okay, well, basically, I guess I was talking about reunions and how alum always come back, but then also the commitment that alum have to you as an undergraduate, and as far as internship getting comes, you reaching out to them is always really exciting for them, and they will probably respond 9 or even 10 out of 10 times in at least a week, which is something that I really do think sets Princeton apart.
Yeah, so there was a really good question about if you could give your freshman year self any advice, knowing what you know now, what would it be and why? Anyone want to take that?
Yes, I talked to a student from the class of 2024 earlier this afternoon, and she asked me the same question. And I'm going to boil it down to 2 things that sort of seem to contradict each other. The first being that you don't have to be scared of alone time. And I felt overwhelmed a few times during the first week because I was so excited to meet everybody and do everything. And I think like I just really got comfortable fast at Princeton, and wish I could go back to that first month and just tell myself like, it's okay to go read a book for an hour. You definitely don't need to feel like you have to do absolutely everything and be everywhere at once. There's time for self-care and relaxation and doing homework in a slow, peaceful, calm way in a beautiful spot on campus. So that's thing 1. But thing 2, which really is where I'm heading now, especially as I become an upperclassman, we're juniors, I would tell all freshmen to really do everything you can. Take the classes that excite you, try to maximize your time here because it goes so fast, and if I could have a decade at Princeton, I would take it. So that's for classes, clubs, friends, just really try to push yourself because that's how you grow. And Princeton, I think, is one of the most extraordinary places in the world to be able to do that.
Yeah, just adding on to that a little bit. I remember coming in as a first year and being really nervous. I came from a high school that wasn't as academically rigorous, so I didn't know how prepared I would be for the academic requirements of Princeton and like what was expected of me. But I kind of came to realize that everyone was kind of in the same boat. Like we all were nervous, we all were unsure. And like, even though you may think like, oh my God, they're so much smarter than me, like you're all really just working together and you're all kind of starting at the same plane. So I wouldn't be scared that like you think that like you're not prepared or you can't like match up to the expectations, because everyone will be prepared and they'll help you through it. And you have so many resources on campus, including upperclassmen students, your RCAs, all the faculty members. So everyone is really trying to make sure that you succeed at Princeton, and almost everyone does.
So yeah, so before we end, we're all gonna go, the 6 of us, and quickly just say what we're studying and what we're involved in on campus once more for those who joined late. And I just want to remind everyone that you can sign up to talk with current students on the main page of the Princeton preview website. You can sign up to talk to one of us, or there's 50 more students. You can read about them, they have bios, and then you can choose who you want to speak with by signing up on the link. And then also after we go around giving a brief bio about ourselves real quick, there'll be a screen with our emails, and feel free to email us about any questions that you may have. We will love to answer them. So yeah, we really look forward to greeting you on campus in the fall. And yeah, we're so excited. So to start off our bios, I'm Aaron. I'm a sophomore from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm concentrating in molecular biology, and I am getting certificates in French language and culture, as well as global health and health policy. And on campus, I'm involved in the William Trigo Singers with the music department, and I'm a peer academic advisor in Forbes College.
Hi, my name is Ashwin. I'm a sophomore from Marlton, New Jersey. I'm majoring in the Woodrow School with certificates in South Asian Studies, history and the practice of diplomacy, and vocal performance. Outside of academics, I sing in the Princeton University Glee Club and Chamber Choir, which are our music department's choirs on campus. I'm a residential college advisor, and I'm also a tour guide and a campus visit ambassador in the admissions office.
I'm Beatrix. I am also a sophomore. I'm from Manhattan. I will be majoring in English, earning certificates in French language and culture, and in creative writing, specifically in poetry. And in addition to working as a campus visit ambassador, I am an Orange Key tour guide. I tutor through the Pace Center. I tutor local middle school students. And I'm a poetry editor for the Nassau Literary Review, which is a literary magazine consisting of art, poetry, and short fiction. Big congratulations to all of you again, and we really hope to hear from you. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, so I'm Christina. I'm a junior from Winchester, Massachusetts, and I'm concentrating in operations research and financial engineering and getting certificates in linguistics and computer science. So apart from being a campus visit ambassador at Princeton, I am also heavily involved in tours on campus. I'm a group fitness instructor. I'm on the club volleyball team. I was heavily involved with our Pace Center for civic engagement, so service groups and all that. And I'm also a peer tutor for computer science classes mainly. So yeah, so that's a little bit what I do on campus. And like Beatrix said, please do feel free to reach out. We are so excited and so happy to answer any and all questions that you guys have.
Hi, everyone. I am Lehman. I am a sophomore at Princeton, concentrating in politics. I'm originally from Williamsburg, Virginia. On campus, I'm heavily engaged in the University Health Services, peer health advisor, do some insurance work in Trenton in New York City. I also do a lot of work with undergraduate student government. I'm an Orange Key tour guide, like everybody else on this panel. And I also work at the Office of Admission, again, like everyone else on this panel.
Hi everyone, I'm Zoe. I am class of 2021, a junior from Findlay, Ohio. I'm majoring in anthropology with a certificate in archaeology, and on campus, I'm also a campus visit ambassador and tour guide. I'm a peer academic advisor in Maddie College, and I'm also a peer career advisor and a member of the Questbridge cohort here on campus.
So yeah, now you will see a slide with all our emails, and feel free to send us as many emails as you'd like with any questions that you have. We are glad to answer them, and we hope to see you on campus in the fall.